In this podcast, we will be discussing how assessment is managed in primary education and considering how this can be used to enhance learning within primary education. As well as this, we will explain how it will be used to enhance learning within our curriculum.
This is our new primary curriculum.
The curriculum is all planned learnings which a school is responsible for, which Marsh said. The Scottish Government agree with this when they say that the curriculum is the totality of what is planned for children and young people throughout their own education. In order to develop a new curriculum, we have explored the curriculum legislation from Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and England in order to understand what is taught, why it is taught and how it is taught within these different countries. We have created a new curriculum drawing on current legislation from all four corners of the United Kingdom. By merging certain aspects of curriculum documents together, we have created what we believe to be a broad and balanced curriculum which will provide our children with the skills, knowledge and understanding they need to develop in order to thrive in the 21st century.
In terms of the principles of our curriculum, we believe it should be responsive, relevant and adaptable to the changes in the world around us, inclusive, easy for everyone to understand, ambitious, set high expectations and remove limits for each individual, engaging, enjoyable and challenging, authentic, and should instill learners with passion and pride in themselves and their community. The Department of Education states that promoting the spiritual, moral, cultural, mental and physical development of pupils at the school and of society and prepares pupils at the school for the opportunities, responsibilities and experiences of later life.
In this slide, we have put together what we view as the main purposes of our curriculum. So, the purposes of our curriculum are that young people develop as ambitious, capable learners and are ready to learn throughout their lives, enterprising, creative contributors that are ready to play a full part in life and work in society, ethical and informed citizens, healthy, confident individuals that are ready to lead fulfilling lives as valued members of society. We also want our curriculum to enable students to be successful learners, confident individuals, responsible citizens, and effective contributors. And that's from Priestley and Humes, as well as helping to empower young people to develop their potential and to make informed and responsible choices and decisions throughout their lives. And that's from the CEA Rewarding Learning.
We're going to develop a curriculum to develop students as independent and effective learners, as well as becoming responsible, critical citizens, as said by Moore in 2012. Our curriculum will emphasise the creativity, communication and expression of students with an appreciation rather than just an application.
We believe that instead of teaching individual subjects, the curriculum would be better organised and serve a greater purpose with it organised around the skills and themes. It is stated that this would help introduce a degree of continuity in the primary education, and at points transfer between educational stages which were lacking. This is stated by Donaldson. High stake testing can narrow the curriculum down to focus on different areas being tested. Schools have responded in various ways to do so. One example is to move to a more topic-based curriculum as a way of finding more space for subjects which are normally squeezed into a timetable. This is an example from Craig and Wise in 2019. Children learn best when learning is connected, stated by the Northern Ireland curriculum. This would be done by cross-learning literacy, numeracy and digital learning.
Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland are now favouring a topic-based curriculum with areas of learning rather than individual subjects, which is how the curriculum in England is structured, with 12 different subjects. By using a similar system to areas of learning, we will be able to cover a greater area of topics, allowing the children to have a broad and balanced curriculum with no greater focus on one subject over another. When there is a hierarchy of subjects, there could be a tendency for the focus of the curriculum to become narrowed, and Ogler suggested a narrow focus has further negative effects by making schools a less inclusive environment for young people who have talents or challenges in the learning by rote system. This is further evidenced by Brown, who states children who have interests or talents outside of the core subject areas are denied the chance to find out about their abilities because subjects are being sidelined or making way for core subject areas. By having a broad and balanced curriculum, it will enable children to be exposed to many different areas of learning in order to discover their own individual talents.
We have taken groups of subjects from Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales and have combined them to create our 8 areas of learning. Personal development, which includes social skills, healthy eating and mental health. literacy, religious, moral and social studies, which includes equality and diversity lessons, the world around us, which is the sciences, humanities and digital work, languages and communication, expressive arts, math and numeracy, and physical education. These ideas were developed from Donaldson, the Scottish Government and CEA Rewarding Learning.
Why have we included these areas of learning in our curriculum? One of the arguments for the value of RE is that in a religiously diverse society, even where a large number of people do not actively practice any religion, teaching about other religions can promote understanding and respect people who have different views. Through the expressive arts, children and young people can have rich opportunities to be creative and imaginative and to experience inspiration and enjoyment. They can come to understand the important roles of the arts and in describing and changing society. That's from Education Scotland. Being able to communicate in an additional language boosts children and young people with confidence and helps them to cope in new situations. Physical education within the primary curriculum is important, and its impact can be transformational, improving not only the children's fitness but also their concentration levels, mood behaviour and general well-being in the classroom. By having children take part in physical education, it can help to reduce health inequalities and to reduce the impact on our NHS in the future. Despite taking a very modern and progressive view towards the development of our curriculum, we also believe that literacy, maths and numeracy are an important aspect within the primary curriculum, as well as digital competence, as these are skills. These skills help our children and young people gain the knowledge, skills and attributes needed for life in the 21st century, to critically think, flourish in today's world, and that's from Education Scotland.
Why is the personal development important within the primary curriculum? We have placed health and well-being at an importance within our curriculum, as we believe that if children and young people are healthy and have a better understanding of themselves, they will be at an advantage to learn better. Having well-being at the forefront of a curriculum is supported by Education Scotland, when they say, if children and young people are healthy and emotionally secure, they will be able to develop the capacity to live a full life. With a sense of well-being, they will be better able to deal with the unexpected and cope with adversity. They will learn to respect and value other people and develop an understanding of their beliefs and feelings. This will result in positive relationships, equality, fairness, and prevent discrimination. From an early age, children can develop an understanding of how important their actions and decisions are when the outcome can affect others. With this understanding, they will behave in ways that will create a positive effect on the other people. Creating the right climate of trust is important. With teachers and contributing adults establish positive, open and honest relationships, children and young people will feel more comfortable and secure in their ability to discuss and share views on sensitive aspects of life.
Learning does not have to take place just in a classroom. In fact, both adults and children can learn anywhere at any time. We are going to embed this into our new curriculum in many ways. Whenever it is possible, children will be given the opportunity to learn outside. Here is a YouTube video explaining this. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic created severe disruption to the global education system. With all schools in the UK being closed, children had to adapt and learn through remote learning activities. We feel it would benefit to keep this element in our new curriculum, as when children are on holidays, they could have remote learning sessions once a week. These sessions could be used to complete homework tasks and offer support at home. As our new curriculum will be topic-based, where there is an opportunity within a topic, school trips will be taken to enable students to build physical connections with their learning. Learning outside a classroom allows children to experience the wider world, challenge themselves, and also learn independence and engage with peers in different ways.
Our curriculum will be organised into blocks of years called key stages, just like the national curriculum in England. This will allow for appropriate level assessment for the children, as well as a fair amount of challenge within their learning, which is right for the age of the child. Subjects will fall into 4 titles. They will be core subjects, topic subjects, enrichment subjects, and ethos subjects. The core subjects will be English and maths. Topic subjects will include art, history, geography, design and technology, music, religious education, science and computing. Enrichment subjects will look at more practical skills to help the children, and these will include cooking, sewing, gardening and swimming, as well as our outdoor learning and school trips. Ethos subjects are lessons around self and others. These will fall into our well-being. They will include British values, social education, and the more traditional PHSE, as well as all of our ideas that come under our well-being topic. Donaldson stated that lessons should be relevant and engaging, with many practical lessons, fun and more interactivity, and more out-of-classroom activities. And the views of the children will also be considered for the planning of lessons, particularly when sensitive issues and choice is there for them.
In any primary curriculum, there needs to be the use of assessment throughout the school years.
What is assessment? This slide gives out different opinions on what assessment is. In Scotland, they believe that assessment is implemented to discover what students already know, their understanding, and what they're able to do. In general, assessment is viewed as an aid to learning and to manage standards, as Slop said. Reed and Hoover quote that assessment is the process of gathering and discussing information from multiple and diverse sources in order to develop a deep understanding of what students know, understand, and what they do with their knowledge.
So why do teachers assess? Teachers use assessments to track progress and learning needs of each children. The Welsh Government says it's a fundamental role to enable children to progress at appropriate pace. It should be focused on moving learning forward by understanding what challenges a child has already overcome, and with this knowledge, a teacher is able to challenge and support them appropriately according to their needs.
How does assessment benefit learning? So assessment helps to provide a suited approach for the child, which then the practitioner can then plan ahead for them. It provides a basis for the next stage, so the teacher has more information on a child and their abilities. It tracks learning and finds strength of child to encourage and bring the child on further using their strengths. As the Welsh Government say, that assessment should focus on identifying each individual learner's strengths, achievements, areas for improvement, and if relevant, any barriers to learning. This understanding should be used by the practitioner in discussion with the learner to ascertain the next steps required to move learning forward, including any additional challenge and support required. And it builds a picture over time of a child's progress across the curriculum, so the practitioner can use this curriculum to pinpoint where the child is at. It allows the child to demonstrate abilities and knowledge and reflects how close they are to meeting their next goal. This also is reflected in the quote from IBID. So reflecting on a learner's progress over time will enable practitioners to provide feedback and help plan their future learning, including any interventions, additional support or challenge which may be required. This should include both immediate next steps and longer term objectives and goals that the learner should work towards to help keep them moving forward in their learning. It can also be used as a basis for communicating and engaging with parents and carers.
The first type of assessment for learning is formative assessment. Cambridge Assessment International Education state that assessment for learning is assessment that takes place while the learner is still engaged with the learning process on a regular basis within a lesson environment where children will not be aware that they are being assessed. The purpose of assessment for learning is to monitor the progress of the learner towards a desired goal, seeking to close the gap between a learner's current status and the desired outcome. The Cambridge Assessment International Education also states that assessment for learning is an approach to teaching and learning that creates feedback, which is then used to improve students' performance. AFL strategies are directly linked to improved students' performance in summative tests and examinations that summarise the children's learning. There are several different types of assessment for learning, and these can include effective questioning using open or closed questions, think, pair, share activities, teacher feedback comments, self-assessment, peer assessment, homework, and random selection so that all children are engaged when in the classroom. Formative assessment has the benefit of being able to be adapted to individual learner needs. These are the elements which a school may choose to implement to support the needs of the individual learners in order to provide additional challenge or support.
Benefits of formative assessment include improving learner outcomes, increasing the confidence of the student, and creating a sense of self-efficacy. This means that learners become more confident in their ability to achieve targets through determination and hard work. An AFL approach focuses more heavily on task-specific feedback over ego-specific feedback. This encourages the learner to believe in their potential. Some people take the viewpoint that examinations are the only type of assessment that matters, due to the way in which progression through education system relies on qualifications. However, others argue that formative assessment provides teachers with information throughout the year in comparison to the one-off mark from an exam.
Here we have a video to play for you that explains how formative assessment would be used in a classroom situation.
Okay, in we come, sitting on the mat. Thanks, in we come. I use a range of formative assessment strategies within my classroom across all learning areas. I often use the random selection tool to choose students at random for different learning activities, whether it's in response to a question or to reflect on learning. I find that this creates equal opportunities for students and it encourages active participation from everybody. So it's not always the one kid that has their hand up all the time. It just means that everybody is always ready to answer a question when it's asked or to reflect on something. So I feel like it just encourages inclusion within the classroom. And if a student is unsure of an answer, they're able to ask a friend, which also fosters collaboration within our learning environment. So formative assessment is embedded across our school. We do a lot of professional development in formative assessment and it's implemented across all grades and all learning areas. So formative assessment is used to gain information about student understanding and provide teachers with feedback that informs their practice. So the information that I get from the students, whether it's through written feedback or whether it's through verbal feedback, I'm able to then take that and use it to inform my future teaching practices and change lessons depending on where students, depending on student feedback for me. So it's not a matter of set lessons anymore. It's about looking at where students are at and their engagement, their response to particular tasks and activities, and then redirecting lessons to better support them in where they're at.
So Amaru has started implementing formative assessment this year, and so through professional development we've been learning about a range of strategies. So I use the information by observations of my students during class time, and I engage in conversations with my teaching partner, and all of these strategies inform my future planning. In my classroom, particularly around the area of numeracy, I use a range of formative assessment strategies. One of these is my learning intention wall, so it's displayed in our classroom, and at the beginning of the lesson my students and I talk about what the learning intention, so what we want to learn, is going to be. So it's a great way for myself and my students to articulate the learning that is going to be happening during that lesson, and So at the end of the lesson, once we've completed all of the learning activities, the students are then able to move their photo depending on where they think they are sitting according to that learning intention. For example, I can add 2 numbers together to make 10. If they feel that they are able to do that independently by themselves, then they move their photo to the green. If they need support from myself, but they are able to do some by themselves, then they move to orange. And if they are still needing support for the whole thing, then they go on to red. And it's a really great way for myself and other teachers and parents to be able to see where the students feel that they are sitting according to that learning intention. So a big result of my students learning using formative assessment strategies is that they are now able to reflect on their own learning independently, and they're able to ask for support for me to help them. But my students are now, because we use it on a daily basis, they're very confident and capable of assessing them themselves by themselves, and they're very honest about it, which I think is great. Through the use of the formative assessment strategies such as my learning intention wall and also mini whiteboards, I'm able to give my students immediate feedback, so I can alter the lesson or the task immediately so that it's actually meaningful and significant for their abilities and capabilities.
Through the use of traffic lights, so using red, amber and red, green, amber and red stickers, they're able to reflect on their achievement in their work based on the learning intention or the learning goal. So they put a green sticker on if they feel like they've met the learning intention, an orange one if they feel like they're still working on it and need a little bit of support, and a red if they felt like they needed quite a bit of prompting or they still really need quite a bit of support to meet that in the future.
So since implementing a range of formative assessment strategies, we have seen a huge change in our students' outcomes and also their confidence, and we find the implementation of formative assessment really useful in numeracy and literacy lessons.
So I've noticed a significant increase in student outcomes across all learning areas through the use of formative assessment. I've seen greater student engagement and student participation through these strategies, and I feel like students have a greater understanding of what it is that they're doing and what it is that they're trying to achieve, and I feel like they have taken on a greater sense of ownership and purpose for doing those activities. Kathleen and I work very closely together. We plan together, program together, and then often teach lessons together, which I find is a really amazing tool for myself as a professional to be able to work alongside somebody so closely. Kathleen and I learn lots from one another. I know that I've gained lots of skills and different learning techniques from her, and been able to also give her some of those opportunities through watching me teach. So we use collaborative coaching as a form of giving each other feedback to improve our lessons and to then enhance student outcomes.
So as collaborative team teaching is a huge part of Amaru, I found it really useful working with my teaching partner because we've been able to share our strengths and meld these strengths together. And so I have gained some new strategies and some new ideas from my teaching partner and her strengths, and I'm also able to share my strengths with her. So it just improves both of our teaching practices, which will therefore improve our students' learning outcomes.
From the video, we see that the 2 teachers use formative assessment in an observational context, such as the whiteboards or moving pictures on a chart, for instant feedback from their students about how they feel about the lesson. The teachers will use this then to move forward for the next lesson to support the progression of the students. This can be seen as in British literature, when the Welsh Government state that although assessment can include numerous methods, they believe its prime purpose is to assist students to enhance their learning. So we believe that means as long as assessment is taking place most lessons, the students will progress. Also, the Welsh Government say that to support individual learner progression, assessment has 3 main roles: supporting individual learners on an ongoing day-to-day basis, identifying, capturing and reflecting on individual learner progress over time, and understanding group progress in order to reflect on practice, which is where the formative assessment will come into place. Assessment should not be used to make a one-off judgment on the overall achievement of a learner at a set stage or point in a time against descriptors or a criteria on a best fit basis. This also means that formative assessment is best in a primary education setting because the progress can be monitored over time.
Summative assessment usually occurs at different intervals within school time. For example, it could be done weekly on completion of a topic and also at the end of each term or school year. This helps the teacher understand what the pupils have picked up on and have truly learned throughout the course. This is stated by the Northern Ireland curriculum. They also say that the information gives an indication on pupil progress and achievement in the understanding of skills within a particular area of learning. IBID also states that summative assessment should provide feedback on what the pupil did and did not do so well. It also provides a teacher with an insight on what the pupils have learnt in order for them to improve their own personal teaching methods. There are many different types of assessments for learning. These can be creating a final project, sitting exams, or taking tests. It is likely that comparisons will be made with previously done assessments to mark how far the child has progressed.
2, 1.
The Northern Ireland primary curriculum predominantly uses formative assessment to evaluate its pupils. CEA Rewarding Learning outlines the 4 main focal points. 1. The active involvement of children in their own learning, asking children what they would like to learn. 2. The provision of effective feedback to children. So this includes constructive criticism and just general feedback on what they can do to improve their work. 3. The development of children's ability to peer and self-assess, meaning that teachers take marking off their own workload and students learn how to evaluate their own work. And 4, the use of outcomes of assessment to inform future teaching and learning.
There are many advantages and disadvantages to summative assessment. An advantage would be that it increases independence within learning. Another advantage may be that it develops reflection skills and critical thinking. It also allows pupils to monitor their own progress. A disadvantage would be that not doing so well could impact the child's confidence. It may create competition between children within a classroom, and children may also get anxious when doing an assessment.
The Northern Ireland primary curriculum predominantly uses formative assessment to evaluate its pupils. CEA Rewarding Learning outlines the 4 main focal points. 1. The active involvement of children in their own learning, asking children what they would like to learn. 2. The provision of effective feedback to children. So this includes constructive criticism and just general feedback on what they can do to improve their work. 3. The development of children's ability to peer and self-assess, meaning that teachers take marking off their own workload and students learn how to evaluate their own work. And 4, the use of outcomes of assessment to inform future teaching and learning.
Assessment in Scotland takes place as a part of ongoing learning and teaching, periodically and at key transitions. Evidence of progress is seen through achievements that come from day-to-day learning. Progress can be seen through activities such as presentations and practical investigations, or it could be a piece of art or audio/video clip. Progress can be tracked through self-assessment, which children can do by revisiting their own work. This enables them to have a better understanding of what they have done and how they can improve. Progress can also be supported through peer assessment. Children can swap their work when an activity is completed and mark it. This helps them think about what the other student has done well and what they can do to improve. This can be used to improve their knowledge and their work in the future. Another way is by using parents and teachers. They can help identify the strengths and weaknesses to support their next step in learning.
So assessment in Wales, for the foundation phase, they have curriculum that is based around 3 to 7-year-olds, and they assess children through different formats and summative. So in early years in Wales, they assess children through observations and tasks rather than having them sit and do tests. So when using formative assessment, they compare achievements against skills in the curriculum, how they can move. This means that the practitioner can then set up steps for the child to move forward and progress. The summative assessment is that they describe the type and range of attainment that children working at a particular outcome should characteristically demonstrate. Government work. Key Stage 2 is a little different. They have more specific subjects that are designed to create a solid foundation for children 7 years. At the end of Key Stage 2, the practitioner will evaluate and compare which level of a national curriculum best reflects a child, and this chart kind of look where the child is at and on steps. There are also national tests for children Stage 2, the national reading and numeracy tests for all children in years 2 to 9. They help schools across Wales assess their learners.
The assessment principles in England underwent a reform in 2015 when the current system of levels used to report children's attainment were removed and not replaced. By removing the levels that were previously used, it was thought to give teachers a greater flexibility in the way that they plan and assess their pupils from the English government. There has been new guidelines set out for a new national curriculum, with assessment left down to individual schools to allow greater encouragement of a child's learning journey with the involvement of their parents as well. However, the guidelines state that effective assessment systems allow meaningful tracking of pupils towards end of key stage expectations in the new curriculum, including regular feedback to their parents. They are reliable and free from bias. They help drive improvement for pupils and teachers alike, are closely linked to improving the quality of the teaching, and ensure feedback to pupils contributes to improved learning and is focused on specific and tangible objectives.
Here we have how we are going to use assessment within our curriculum. In summary, both summative and formative assessment can support student learning. That's from Waring and Evans. However, within our curriculum, we are going to use a majority of formative assessment style where teacher assessment remains the main vehicle for assessment before qualifications. And that's from Donaldson. The use of formative assessment within our curriculum will help the identification of pupils' progress and difficulties with learning. This will enable teachers to better help their pupils by adapting their practice to meet the needs of their pupils. Formative assessment allows for an emphasis on personalised learning, which will allow teachers to concentrate much more on the needs of individual pupils and how to improve their learning. That's from Bartlett and Burton. Students will be assessed while they are still engaged in the learning process by ways of effective questioning. Think, pair, share activities, teacher feedback, comments, self-assessment, peer assessment, homework, and random selection. Summative assessment will be used to assess how much students have learned when it is necessary to do so, such as at the start and the end of a topic when for more linear subjects like maths and literacy at the start and the end of every term. Summative assessment allows for the planning of formative assessment, which will help students progress in a learning environment suited to doing so. Within our curriculum, we will be using children's ages as a benchmark for assessment to ensure that learning has taken place, which is crucial for moving through the school. The timings for these assessments are...
From the table, we can see that in Year 1, when the children are ages 5 to 6, they will take part in phonics screening checks. In Year 2, when they are 6 to 7, they will take part in national tests and teacher assessments in literacy, maths and science. And then in the last year, when they're 10 to 11, national tests and teacher assessments in literacy and maths, and teachers' assessments in science.
Assessment will enhance learning within our curriculum by playing a fundamental role in enabling each individual learner to make progress at an appropriate pace, ensuring they are supported and challenged accordingly. Assessment methods and techniques will be selected and adapted where appropriate according to the needs of the learner. This should consider the developmental stage and any barriers to the learning, ensuring that each learner is able to demonstrate progress in line with their individual ability. Students will be fully involved in the receiving of feedback to ensure that they know exactly the next steps they need to take in order to progress within their learning. Using formative assessment, teachers can plan their future lessons, including any interventions and support that may be required or challenge that students need in order to best aid their students.
Here is a list of the references we've used throughout this podcast. Thanks for watching our podcast on our own curriculum, and how assessment is used within primary education.